your Nevada family realtor. Today we're here with Matt. He's interested in buying a home in the next year, so we're going to sit and talk with him and explain the entire process. So Matt, first of all, what do you know about buying a home?
Absolutely nothing. I need you guys' expert opinion on this. I have no idea where to start, how much money I should save up, whether or not my credit's an important factor. You know, I have tons of questions, so you're gonna have to educate me kind of on the basics all the way to close.
Okay, why do you want to buy a home?
I want to buy a house because, for one, I feel like it's kind of a transition into like full adulthood to me, to really have a place of my own. And also, you know, I look at it as sort of an investment. You know, while I'm paying rent now, I'm not seeing any of that return. I'm essentially paying somebody's mortgage for them and renting out their condo, and that money just goes to them instead of paying off a long-term investment.
Absolutely. I agree 100% with everything that you said. You know, when you're paying rent, it's true, you're just literally paying somebody else's mortgage, and then you have no freedom and flexibility that you would have in a home of your own. So, I mean, just for an example, obviously we bought this home, Charmaine's bought many homes. If my kid kicks a hole in the wall, I can fix it next week if I want. I don't have to fix it today. So, and then also, let's say worst case scenario, that you don't really make a lot of equity. The only thing that you get out is what you pay into your own mortgage loan. You're still gonna have a tax write-off at the end of every single year, where you're never gonna have that on a rental. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. Worst case scenario, even if you don't really gain any equity, at least you're gonna get that tax write-off, and most people do gain equity.
Well, I'm interested in all that,
Yes.
The tax write-off and the equity portion.
Absolutely. So as far as credit requirements go, it's different for every loan program. And depending on how much cash you have, we can determine, you know, what program is best for you. If it's going to be best to go FHA, conventional, or we have the option to get you a grant.
Okay, so let's say I'm a single guy. You know, I'm just kind of getting into my career and establishing myself. Let's say I save up about $10,000. You know, is that a good kind of baseline for, you know, your first-time home buyer that really is looking to get something smaller, nothing super substantial or I guess extravagant, so to speak?
Absolutely. So the first step is always going to be choosing your realtor. We hope that you would choose us since we're on this video with you. If not, we understand though. And then the second step is going to be choosing a lender, and then they'll run your credit. And so what that does is gives us kind of a baseline to work off of. We figure out where your score is. If there needs to be improvement, we help get you there with a step-by-step plan. That also will tell us how much you qualify for. So what the lender's going to want to see is 2 years of tax returns. They're going to want to see your last 2 months bank statements, and then your last 2 months of paycheck stubs. And then also they'll look into any kind of debt that you have. So that'll help them determine exactly what you qualify for. So that's kind of the starting point. And then once we have that figured out, let's say you qualify for a $200,000 loan, and we decide that we're going to go with FHA Max. You're going to need 3.5% down, so about $7,000. And then there's closing costs on top of that. Depending on what kind of loan you go with, they could be anywhere from 2 to 3%. With my clients, I always try to fight for closing costs. We try to get the seller to pay for that. Let's say we find a great deal and the seller doesn't really have the wiggle room to pay for that. As long as we think that the house will appraise, then we can offer a little bit more and we can ask for that money back for you in closing costs. So there's many ways to work it.
So just to kind of recap, the first step for me is going to be finding a realtor. Obviously, I'm in a very good position right now, both physically and friendship-wise. And then the second step is going to be choosing a lender, really finding that baseline of, okay, now you got approved for this much, this is where your credit's at, you know, maybe we need to improve it, this is the pathway to do so.
Exactly.
And then from there, kind of figuring out, you know, roughly what kind of down payment I'd need, and then that's when we transition into looking at the different loan programs and what would be optimal for me with my budget and what I have to offer as far as like a down payment goes.
Exactly, and what we really try to do is we try to tailor the plan to each individual buyer. So everybody's got different goals, everybody has different finances and different reserves. So let's say you said to me, you know what, Tam, I've got 10 grand, but I really want to get something that needs a little bit of work and I need that money for upgrades. Then I can probably get you a grant program that will cover your down payment. You'll still be left with closing costs. Most likely I'll be able to negotiate for the seller to pay those closing costs for you. So then you'll keep that money set aside for the upgrades that you want to do in the future.
Perfect. So give me just a like a breakdown, layman's terms, like as simple as possible, the different kinds of loans and what they each bring to the table.
So for FHA, those are designed for first-time home buyers. It's a government program. The government really wants to help people obtain home ownership. So what they do is they give you a better interest rate, and they also help you get into the home with a little bit less down, about 3.5%.
Okay.
Conventional loans, the loan limit is a little bit higher. The interest rate tends to be a little bit more, but you can put 5, 10, 20% down. If you put 20% down, you won't have mortgage insurance on the loan. With FHA, no matter how much you put down, you're always going to have mortgage insurance for the life of the loan. VA is another one that we see a lot. If you're a veteran, then you have your VA certificate. You're able to get into a house with 0 down. You will still have to cover closing costs, but again, we can help you negotiate that.
All right, cool. So once we figured out, okay, you know what, I'm a first-time home buyer, and I want to go with the FHA program. So what is the next step? So let's say we get approved for an FHA loan. What is the next step? Is that when we start to look at housing options? Is that when we really start to evaluate the market and what opportunities I may have as far as my first purchase goes?
Exactly. So we'll see what you qualify for, but then that's not the end all be all. It really depends on what you want your payment to be. Because a lot of times people qualify for more than they would actually want their payment to be. So we can reverse engineer the loan based on that. So if you tell me that you want a $1,200 payment, I'm going to put you in, depending on your loan program, maybe a $150,000 house.
Gotcha.
So we'll always take your interest in mind. Then once we have that approval, what we do is sit down with you one-on-one or through video chat, and we really go over your needs. What do you need in a house, and why do you want it? And if you're telling me you need 4 bedrooms, I need to know what those 4 bedrooms are for, because I need to make sure that if I see a house with 3 bedrooms and a separate loft or a separate office, that I'm not passing that up and not understanding your needs. So we go into all your wants and needs, all your must-haves, and then I need to know any of your deal breakers. If you say to me, you know what, I can't be anywhere near a school, or I don't want to be near a shopping center, that's an absolute no, then I know not to show you houses in that neighborhood.
So like as a first-time home buyer, it should be kind of almost on my task list and responsibility to really figure out exactly what I'm looking for, exactly what my intent is as far as, for me it's going to be 3 bedrooms. I want my bedroom, a guest bedroom, and an office.
Exactly.
And then for me, some of my deal breakers would be, I'm not a huge fan of being a flight pass. So if we can avoid airport areas, that would be fantastic. And not a huge fan of school zones too. So stuff like that.
Exactly.
As a first-time buyer, you should sort of have prepared and sort of bring it salient in your mind, making sure that I'm relaying that information to my agent so that they know the kind of the parameters when they're searching for houses.
Exactly, yeah. We need to know what motivates you, what drives you, and the why behind all of these things, so that when we're looking at a home, we're not ruling things out just because you made a blanket statement and we don't really understand what that means. So once we have all your wants and needs, really one of the most important things is to narrow down a location, because specifically in Las Vegas, everything is so segmented that the market is different in every single area. So it's hard for me to make a blanket statement about how the market is when Inspirada is completely different than North Las Vegas. It's completely different than Summerlin or Green Valley. So once we narrow down that location, we narrow down a price point, a square footage range, number of bedrooms, and then we start a custom MLS search for you. And what that means is you'll have a porthole that's emailed to you. You'll be able to go in and look at properties online. A lot of times what I do is I get on a video conference call with my clients and I share my screen with them so that we look through each and every property together. And then once you have something, you're like, you know what, Tam, I can see myself in that house. I want to put I would consider putting an offer. Then we go and we look at the property. And what we're looking for is the condition of the property. We want to make sure it meets your expectations, and that's different for everybody. Some people want just a complete beater that they can remodel, and that's okay. So we're going to go based on your needs. We walk the property, make sure that the house looks like they do in the photos, and then we sit down and decide if this is the house that we want to write an offer on.
So that's actually super convenient, because in my first time, absolutely zero knowledge head, I'm thinking we've got to go to 60 different homes and travel all over the valley, and I'm going to be driving all these places. That makes it so much more convenient in my head. I'll get this nice list, I'll be able to look at it, kind of filter through, and then work with you kind of in tandem and say, hey Tam, I'm really interested in these 3 houses, and then if you have any concerns, you say, hey Matt, well those are good, but that one's probably not the best fit because it's super close to the airport. Exactly. I know that you weren't looking forward to hearing airport noise at 6 a.m. while you're trying to get ready for work.
That brings up such a great point, because a lot of times if you're having trouble deciding what area you want to be in, I'll have my clients pick 6 or 7 houses and just on their day off go drive by the neighborhoods. Yeah. So that way I'm not wasting your time actually taking you into every single house and then asking you if you want to write an offer when you already know you hate the neighborhood.
Yeah, because that's part of it too for me, is there's something about, obviously for me, the majority of it will be important on the inside of the house. There's something about the aesthetics too, like the neighborhood, the scenery, you know, how that neighborhood makes me feel that's going to be important now in my purchasing decision. Because, you know, you could have this beautiful house that's just surrounded by people that have never taken care of their yards, or are fans of graffiti or something like that, and maybe just have an absolute messy neighborhood. So cool, so let's say, all right, so we've gone through the MLS listing that you provided with me. We've looked at these houses, so we've gone through, let's say, 3 or 4, and on the 4th one, I'm super excited. I'm sold. I'm like, this is my dream house. This feels like a home to me, something that I could grow into, raise a family. Like, what does that next step look like?
So the next step for us is me and Charmaine are going to look at what we call the comps, and that's a comparative market analysis. And what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking in 1 mile radius of that property. We break it down even farther. We actually try to look at the subdivision whenever possible if there's enough comparables. And what we're looking for is we want to see how much every property that's comparable to that property that you're thinking about writing an offer on, what did that sell for in the last 90 days? Because technically that's all an appraisal will go by is actual sold comps. But we also look at, you know, what's under contract right now and what's available on the market, and that gives us a really good story as to what's happening in that neighborhood. So if we have, you know, closed comps that, let's say the house you wanted to buy, a lot of them closed at 200,000, and then we've got a bunch under contract at 215, and then we've got more that are available and not under contract at 235. Well, that tells us the story that that the neighborhood is trending up and that it's gaining value. So same would apply on the downside. If we see prices under contract that are under that, and then available properties that are even less, we know that that neighborhood might be taking a little bit of a dip, and so we're going to construct our offer accordingly.
Cool. And so this is when Charmaine steps into the picture, and so she's going to help really contractually make sure that everything goes according to plan. Because, like, at this point, this is when, like, you know, I'm sold. I want to make an offer. This is when things kind of transition into a more serious thing.
Exactly.